Welcome. We got 2 math majors happening in the fall of 2021. Look at us go. Good choice, friends.
This will be about 2% of the freshman body.
We get some one-on-one attention here. We will give it a minute or two to see if others join us. Not that you two aren't going to be the most exciting ones today, right?
So where are you two coming from today?
Behind the scenes.
That's right. And you should both feel free to just turn on your mics if you want. That's we're very happy to talk to you.
Don't worry if the dog's barking in the background, family's talking.
Had one of my students apologizing a few weeks ago because their father kept walking by in his underwear.
That's worth a virtual background at that point.
Well, the thing was, I make them turn the virtual backgrounds off during exams.
Oh, fair.
But I have them change their camera angle.
Mm.
And so you couldn't see anybody walking in the background. But they, in their mind, they knew it was happening. And so they were very apologetic. And we're all just like, yeah, we don't see anything.
Yep.
Good morning, Samantha.
I was in a consulting meeting and their motto at that company was, we don't apologize for screaming kids or barking dogs. Just if you draw attention to it, it makes it worse sometimes. And I've got both of those. Welcome to the math department.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should probably get
Wanna go ahead and
started.
get started?
A lot of people will probably watch this recorded later on. In which case, hi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cal State Fullerton Department of Mathematics. We'll go ahead and introduce ourselves, and then we'll tell you a little bit about the department, some of what's going to be happening in the department, and then we will provide some opportunity for questions. In the meantime, if you have any questions while we're chatting, feel free to unmute yourself, chat with us, or use the chat feature on Zoom. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'll introduce myself first and then Dr. Glesser will go. So hi, Zoom is great, tells you exactly who I am. I'm Dr. Jessica Janes. I am a statistician within the Department of Mathematics. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I actually was a Cal State Fullerton undergraduate myself in mathematics. So sort of coming back full circle for me. I did a degree in mathematics. I did a concentration, which we'll tell you about today, in probability and statistics. After I graduated, I went on to get my master's in statistics at UCLA. And once I was there, I absolutely loved it. So I said, okay, let's stay. And I went on for my PhD. And then ever since, I decided I really want to teach. I have a strong passion for teaching, which is what we do in this department. And so I work in the area of what's called experimental design. So it's pretty relevant these days. I try not to do too much COVID reference because I know we get plenty of that. But basically in any data collection process, we want to make sure we design that experiment correctly or that study correctly so that we can get good data to answer the types of questions that we're trying to answer. So that's just a little bit about my area of research. Dr. Glesser, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Jane. So, yeah, as Dr. Jane said, I'm Dr. Adam Glesser. I've been a professor at Cal State Fullerton for, let's see, this is my 9th year. Before I taught here, I taught in Boston at a university called Suffolk for 4 years. So I'm old, is what I'm basically saying. Long time ago, I got my PhD at UC Santa Cruz up north, which I was there for like 10 years. So again, old. Uh, let's see. I do what is called pure mathematics. So unlike Dr. Janes, who is what we in the biz call useful, the kind of math I study is what in 50 years the useful people will be using. So we try to understand how mathematics works as a subject itself, not so much as how it's applied to the real world, but if, for example, you notice that, oh, look, when I have the integers, I can add them, I can subtract them, I can multiply, and I can do that with other things like polynomials and matrices, and I wonder if there's some underlying structure that is similar amongst all these things. So in particular, I study what's called abstract algebra, which is a course you might be taking in your junior or senior year. I do a lot of research with students, but that actually tends to cover a very wide range of topics. And well, we'll get into doing research, I think, quite a bit today. So yeah, Dr. Janes.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about the two of us. Obviously, we are not the whole Department of Mathematics. There's lots of us. But that's kind of what we wanted to touch upon next is sort of the culture and the environment of the Department of Mathematics at Cal State Fullerton. Hopefully, you can kind of see in the first couple of minutes that you've met us, we enjoy talking to students. We enjoy getting to learn about you and sharing our stories with you. So really, we're a pretty hands-on department. Obviously, virtually, it's a little more challenging, but we try to be available as much as possible and create a community for you. And the students tend to really gravitate towards that. You know, open door policy for the majority of the faculty. You know, if our door is open and, you know, you want to stop on by, generally we would say yes, right? So it's a really friendly department. In terms of content, the real math and the real meat of the department, we have a variety of classes for you. In fact, some really cutting edge classes. Dr. Glesser sort of sold himself short when he talked about pure mathematics not necessarily being useful, but without pure mathematics, I wouldn't be able to exist as a statistician. They really build the foundation for everything that we need. And so that brings me into really, what is our department about? I don't know if any of you have explored the math department website. Quick Google CSUF math. You'll find it pretty quickly. Should be the first link that pops up. Ooh, look at this. We're fancy. We can share our screen these days. Look at us. Actually, side note, I've been on Zoom for the past 7 years because our master's program in statistics is hybrid. So this is not new to me, it's new to him, but you know, we're making do here. Anyways, there's lots of resources on our department. In particular, you see that tab called programs. If you click on that tab programs, the second one right there, yep. You will see for our undergraduate degree, we have what are called 5 concentrations. So there's the big math major, which has your, you know, your quote unquote, I'll say standard classes, because Dr. Klesser will talk about some of those really innovative math classes that are available to you in our department. But then beyond the math major, we have our 5 concentrations. As you can see here, pure mathematics, applied mathematics, probability and statistics, teaching mathematics, and then actuarial science. And so we have lots of faculty in all of those different areas. Now, just to kind of tell you about the major and how our students typically enter the major, some students come in and they go, I'm going to be a statistician, or I am going to take that FM exam for the actuarial concentration. I'm going to be a pure mathematician. I'm going on to graduate school or whatever it may be. But some students come in going, I have a strong passion for mathematics. I have a strong passion to learn to think mathematically, and that's what I want to do. But I don't know what realm I want to be in, and that's okay too. So we encourage you to sort of explore the website, which tells you about these 5 areas, and we're always happy to talk about them. Dr. Glesser gave a little introduction to what pure mathematics is. Applied mathematics kind of sounds like what it is. It's the applications of the mathematics. I would say as time is going on, the applied and the probability and statistics are tending to sort of overlap with each other, but it would be probably less on the data collection side with the applied mathematics. Probability and statistics, I used to have to sell myself like 10 years ago and be like, this is why you need probability and statistics. These days, I don't even have to do that anymore. Google does that for me. The news does that for me. You guys see probability and statistics all the time. Teaching. If you're interested in teaching, we have an excellent teaching concentration and a wide variety of faculty and resources for you there. And then actuarial, one of our newest concentrations, one of our, I would say, fastest growing concentrations. And if you're interested in actuarial sciences, there's a lot of resources for you. In fact, one of the key faculty members in that concentration even runs a couple of workshops to help you prepare for some of those exams as you get further along in the major. So there's the broad overview of the concentrations for the major. I feel like this is kind of a point where, since I'm here, any questions on that? If you had some thoughts? Any questions on it? Check the chat. Okay. So if at any point something comes up, so beyond sort of the degree, right? Well, actually, before I go there, when it comes to going, okay, well, how do I know what classes to take when? Like, what classes should I be taking and when should I take them to do this degree in the most efficient manner, given the things that you have going on in your life? If you go back to the home page, there's a tab called resources. So third one from the end there, or that's how I would get to it. Maybe Dr. Glesser would get to it differently, a couple different ways. You click on resources, you can see there's tons of resources, but the very first link is very critical. It's called advising. In the math department, we like to make sure our students are on the right track. And so we dedicate a lot of time to this. Every semester, you will meet with a math faculty to advise you for the upcoming semester. And so that way you can kind of have an idea of where you should be at and ask any questions. We don't want you to go through this alone. But if you'd like to get a look at it ahead of time, there's lots of resources here for you. In fact, there's these things called prerequisite diagrams. You may open one and go, oh my goodness, I'm out. I'm not, I don't even know where to start. It will take time to digest and you'll get very comfortable with this diagram as time goes on. But basically it's outlining your from your start all the way till your end. You can see there's different colors there. There's a nice little legend in the bottom that we encourage you to look at as you're looking at these classes. And in addition, one little tidbit that I like to add that students are always like, what does that stand for? If you look at each box in the top right-hand corner, it says, sometimes it says F, sometimes it says S, sometimes it says SU. That's the offering of that course. Is it offered in the fall? Is it offered in the spring? Or is it offered in the summer? And that's something to pay close attention to, right? Because if you think you're going to take a class in the fall, but it's only offered in the spring, sometimes you can get into a little bit of an issue with that. So be careful with that situation. But we encourage you to look at those. And in fact, that whole resource tabs has tons of information for you. Dr. Glesser, since we are here, do you want to talk about some of the really innovative math classes that we have available for our students nowadays?
Absolutely, Dr.
Join.
Yeah, so let me give you a quick background. At most universities, when you go in to do a math degree, you're going to come in and take Calculus 1, Calculus 2, Calculus 3, maybe a Calculus 4. And that's more or less what you're doing the first 2 years. And if you've had some calculus or even pre-calculus in high school, you might think of it as a fairly procedural subject. There are certain types of problems, and then they tell you, here's how you solve those problems. And then your job is to learn those procedures. That sends a message that math is about learning procedures for specific types of problems. It turns out that that's not really what math is going to look like when you get up to the upper division level. You're going to find yourself spending more time creating the procedures, being very creative in your thinking, and you'll find that math turns into more of an art than it really is an exercise in accounting. So in order to help students learn that in their first couple of years rather than finding out when they got into year 3 and year 4, we designed some new courses. A couple of them we designed to really hone in on what are these sort of creative aspects of the math and what are the really good foundational things that aren't just that maybe in an engineering math course you wouldn't see these things, but in a course for math majors, these would be very appropriate. So 2 of these classes are up here on the top. One of them is called Math 180, Strategies of Problem Solving, which is a really boring title for what is actually a really fun course. So I designed this with another professor, Dr. Rathbun, because we both really enjoyed playing board games. In fact, if you look behind me on my bookshelves, it just says board games, board games, board games. And I wanted to be able to go to school and play games with my students. And so that's actually what Math 180 is. It's about playing games. However, in the course of playing these games, you're going to find out that, oh, wow, there's all sorts of connections to the mathematics that you're going to be doing over the next 4 years. So it turns out to be one of our more popular new courses. The other course here, Math 107, is Introduction to Computational Linear Algebra. So we designed this because we noticed, number one, when people graduated, it was really helpful if they had programming background. And a lot of our students, while we had a programming requirement, weren't really getting it until very late in the game, and it wasn't integrated into the curriculum as well. So we said, all right, let's give a programming course early. However, we also said, you know what, a programming class, that's not what math majors typically sign up for, right? They want to do math classes. And so we designed a course that was also a math class, namely linear algebra. And if you look straight down, you'll notice all these references to lin algebra, lin-alg, linear algebra. It's kind of a big deal, no matter which concentration you're in. We said, why don't we teach a really exciting course on linear algebra where you have to learn the programming so you can solve the problems, not, hey, we're going to do programming and occasionally there'll be some math applications. So this actually, the person who designed this, Dr. Chowdhury, who, oh my goodness, you should take a class with Dr. Chowdhury. Is that correct, Dr. James?
100%. You'll be sold if you weren't sold on being a math major. She'll sell you on being a math major. Plus, you'll learn lots of cool stuff. And remember what I said: learn to think mathematically. That's the goal.
So Dr. Chowdhury designed it. We've more recently had one of our new faculty members, Dr. Kuryansky, or Dr. K, who is also just tremendous, right? So they've been teaching this course, and the students, the programming is tough, don't get me wrong, but the students all come out of going, those are some cool applications we saw in that class. It's not just, hey, let's do a little bit of computations by hand. No, we're actually using the computers to solve interesting questions. The other 2 classes that we built here are this Math 210 and this Math 207. And I won't go too deeply into them other than to say these are replacements for the typical Calculus 2 and Calculus 4 courses in a math major. The big difference with 207 and really with all these new courses is it's just for math majors. You'll take this class, you won't have engineers, you won't have computer science. You'll be getting to meet the people you'll be taking classes with all through your 3rd and 4th years. And so this is a really excellent way to build some community early, to start to meet the people who you're going to be working with, because math ultimately becomes a social activity, right? And you're going to find yourself spending a ton of time with your peers. Doing the math, but also not doing the math, just being social, right? Becoming better adults, right? Better people with each other. And we really wanted to start that process much earlier. So this 207 is very similar to the normal Calc 4 course, but again, just all math majors. And then this Calc 2, well, maybe some of you have had a calculus course in high school. And you even might have done the Calculus BC exam. You've seen some integration. I promise you, this is different than anything you saw. All right, this is a brand new course. I don't know of it existing anywhere else in the country. It covers the Calculus 2 material in a fundamentally different way. And so you're going to be getting a leg up on students from any other department of mathematics around the country. So again, we've built these courses, one, to help prepare you for these upper division classes where we know that your perspective on math needs to be very, very different. Two, to give you some fairly innovative and unique content. And three, to help you meet each other earlier. We had it used to be your first 2 years, you might only meet a handful of math majors every semester. Now we want it to be that almost every math class you're in is all math majors. And so you're going to get to know these people really, really well.
We have a chat, and I think we should touch upon that chat. So someone says, as a transfer student, looking at this makes me feel so behind. I think we should touch upon the fact that I would say half of our students are probably transfer students. And again, we have that one, it's literally one-on-one advising every semester. So this summer, you'll do an orientation where you will be advised into the proper math classes. We'll look at what you've done. And then in the fall, again, you'll see a faculty member to get you ready for the spring. So don't feel behind. We will look at where you're at, and you will definitely not be alone in this situation. We have a lot of students who are transfer students.
Yeah, Dr. James is exactly right about that. And some of these courses, and Emily, of course, I don't know your specific situation, which courses you already had, but even some of these courses, we recommend transfer students go and take anyway. For Math 180, I recommend just everybody takes it at the very least because it's just a fun course. The Math 107, pretty much the same thing.
And so these courses and sort of this community that's being built also leads into other opportunities for you, right? Within the Department of Mathematics, we like to do a lot of research with our undergraduate students. And for some of you may be going, what does research even mean? What does it mean to do research as a mathematician or a statistician or an actuarial science? But that's why we have these communities being built earlier on, right? It really is providing you an opportunity to talk to other students and be like, oh, what did you do this summer? Oh, you worked with Dr. dot dot dot. What did you work on? Right? You never know by talking to another student what opportunity might open up for you, right? And so that's why even taking those Math 180 classes, if you take Math 180 as a transfer student, it's definitely a good path for you. It's not a bad idea.
Oh, in fact, I'll just add just a little bit. We hired a new faculty member this year who hopefully you all get to meet, Dr. Casper, who is teaching the 180 this year and picked up 2 or 3 research students in that course. And they did projects based on games they were playing. In fact, they're writing a paper on Battleship right now that is connected with quantum computing. I mean, I just read a preprint of it. It was insanely interesting. So there's a lot of fertile ground there, and you all will find there's some very big opportunities for doing some interesting work very early on.
Yeah. And that also makes me think about the idea of the transition that some of you are making, or I would say all of you are making, actually, whether you're transitioning from high school to Cal State Fullerton or whether you're transitioning from a community college to Cal State Fullerton. Those are big transitions. Things are going to change, right? You're taking classes to prepare yourself for a career at this point. Think of it that way, right? And so that's why I keep emphasizing this idea of getting you to think mathematically. And that's going to take time. It takes time and it takes studying. It doesn't take just homework. It doesn't take just class time, but it truly takes studying. And that's why getting to know us, talking with us, working with your classmates, that's all a really good idea to learn. How do I really study this? How do I learn to think about this as opposed to just doing it? And that's what we're really trying to prepare you for whatever your future may hold so that you can think through. And that's the value of being a math major, is that you learn to think through a process. You learn to make decisions. As we had a talk yesterday, part of what we have in the department are called seminars or colloquiums. Basically, we bring in people from different universities or different areas of industry, and they come talk about what they do or what research they're working on. And the person yesterday talked about making decisions and how statisticians can contribute to that. So lots of opportunities for you. Has this brought up any questions from anybody? You guys are all professionals. Are we all ready to start in the fall? Nothing?
Oh,
I have
okay.
a question. Okay,
Emily's going to put a question in the
I
chat.
love
Very
it.
good.
I love it. There's a little disclaimer in between. She's feeling the pressure now. We're all
Yeah,
sitting waiting.
that's right.
What's the question?
Well, while Emily types her question, maybe I'll mention we have quite a few other activities in addition to the research, which, by the way, just about every professor in the department, and we have what is it, about 35 or so full time faculty. Just about every one of them is doing research with students, but we also do contest preparation. So there's a big math contest every year called the Putnam exam, and we have a weekend or a Friday afternoon seminar for that. And oh, let's see, we got our chat here. Emily asks, as far as COVID goes, how many of these math classes will be in person, hybrid, or online? And if we don't know yet, yeah, okay. So the best answer probably is we don't 100% know, but we've been making plans to roughly get about half of the classes to be in person and then half of them to be online. They've given professors the option of what they would like to do, that, or we can state our preference. At the end of the day, of course, the university is going to make decisions based on the advice of things like the Center for Disease Control and whatever the state of California mandates for best health practices. So I would expect probably about half of the classes will be online. So depending on which classes you're trying to take, again, if it's a larger class in the sense of there's many sections. So Emily, it looks like you're a transfer student, so this may not apply directly to you, but if you were taking, say, the calculus sequence, where we're usually going to have between 6 and 20 different sections of the course, you almost certainly can choose whether you want to do an online or an in-person. For some of the upper division, then it'll be more instructor dependent.
Yeah, to tack on to that, when you go to register, when you do your orientation this summer, you'll see the classes online, and it'll tell you, if you've been at a community college, you know how to do the registration thing. You'll see whether it says online, or if there's an actual building and classroom number listed, then it will be in person, unless government says otherwise, right? I should also make note, because I know I've had students tell me at some of the community colleges that a lot of the classes are asynchronous, meaning you don't have a specific time you need to sign into Zoom. We are synchronous in the math department here at Cal State Fullerton. All of our classes have it's other than being in a classroom together physically, we sign in at a specific time. So if your class starts at 10 a.m., you sign into Zoom at 10 a.m. The instructor teaches in whatever fashion that class requires, and you're there the amount of time that that class is allocated for. So we're trying to make it as realistic to an in-person environment that we can, should you still be online. We still have our full office hours, so we're trying to make it as realistic as we can.
Let's see. So she goes on, I ask because I just worry about more strictly online classes, especially moving to the upper division math courses. Yeah, I think it's a good thing to worry about, because it's tough, right? The longer we've been online, I think the more we've seen what they're calling Zoom fatigue, students who are struggling staying engaged in the online. And for upper division, that can be a real challenge. So looking at the schedule of classes, quite a few of the upper division courses are going to be in person. So that should be helpful, Emily. And I think we don't know, of course. I think as we get more classes in person, it might be that the online ones are maybe a little easier to handle, right? Just psychologically.
Yeah, and there are, I try to portray to my students some advantages of online that we don't have in person. Your instructor posts the recordings, right? I think majority, a good chunk of the math faculty are. And so you do have that opportunity to go back and rewatch. Notice I said rewatch, not watch the first time. Not that any of you would do that, but there's additional resources that come with it. But there are definitely additional challenges. So we understand. We're all with you. I mean, if it
That's-
helps to add the reality, I've got two very small children on top of all of this.
Speaking of videos, maybe now would be an
Mm,
appropriate time to mention, as we're getting near the 12 o'clock hour here,
okay.
uh, for those of you who would like to get a more comprehensive look at some of the information that we were talking about today, we've made a series of videos to orient you into the math department. So first, let me just put up here an easy link for you. So if you just go to bit.ly CSUF-math-orientation, this will take you to a YouTube playlist, and it should have most of the information that you want to know, at least as an incoming Fullerton student. Let me share here. Yeah, so this is the video, the playlist. So you can see there's going to be, what is it? I think 9 classes, or 9 videos rather. And so it's going to go over a lot of the specifics of the major, all things you can find by reading the university catalog, but I think it's maybe a little bit easier when somebody is explaining it. And then also, if you look at the end, you'll see a few things that students tend to, especially if you're incoming freshmen, that will be very handy, is what classes should you be choosing coming into your first semester, as well as this general advice one, which I strongly recommend. There's a lot of useful tips and tricks in here for getting through your college years.
To be funny, all I see is the students are going to be tired of looking at your face at the end of all of this.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
But they will be more knowledgeable. I should make note, back when we were on the math department website, there's a people tab as well, where you can find, if you click on the part that says full-time faculty, you can find information about the variety of faculty that we have. As well as contact information. There's phone numbers listed. Don't recommend calling us right now, but definitely we're generally available by email. And then it has a brief little bio about the faculty that we have within the department. So a good place to kind of explore who's there, because we understand if you're joining virtually in the fall, you may not know who's even in the department.
There's Dr. Chowdhury.
Yes, definitely be taking 107.
Where's Dr. Janes? There's Dr. Janes.
Hi, friends.
Yeah. By the way, email the faculty. Okay, introduce yourself. Say hi to people. The faculty are very responsive to emails in this department, and they will not bite. They love talking. I can't tell you how many of our faculty end up hanging out with students outside of class, right? They come to the office and they'll just sit and chat. The faculty love being with the students and love being a part of the community of Fullerton. So do not be afraid to reach out to a faculty member.
I agree.
We look forward to communicating.
Yes. What's the worst that happens? They don't respond, but I highly doubt that will be the case, but it never hurts to ask. Always ask. Yeah.
That's right. And if you are in the teaching concentration and want money, then you contact Dr. Chinose here, who leads one of our big grants that gives money out to students for being teaching apprentices and what are called Noyce scholars. And when we say giving out money, we're talking like in the 5 digits. So it's a big deal. She's also amazing. So.
Yeah, an excellent opportunity if you are interested in teaching to get that experience while you're an undergraduate student. Very good. Well, I think we are technically at the end of our time. We don't know what you guys have on your agenda next. Did that bring up any more questions?